Hello, 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 and welcome to your favorite bad movie podcast. The only podcast that's brave enough to ask the question, if this movie's so bad, why do you like it so much? We're your hosts. My name is Chris Anderson. With me, as always, I have my beautiful wife, Anna.
Hello? What was that you called me?
My beautiful wife, Anna.
Thank you.
And my beautiful friend, Greg Bossy.
Hello.
And we're joined this week by a very special guest. I'm very honored to have her here. We've got, well, you might know her as the author of last summer's hit horror novel, Manhunt. You might know her as the writer of this summer's hit horror novel, Cuckoo. Or you might know her the way that I know her, as the host of the best dang movie club on the internet. It's Gretchen Felker-Martin.
Hey, thank you so much for having me on.
Thank you for coming. And you chose our movie this week, and you chose as your favorite bad movie, Brotherhood of the Wolf.
You're goddamn right, I did.
What made this your choice? Because you didn't hesitate. You didn't hem and haw. You didn't come to me with a list of suggestions. Right off the dome, you had Brotherhood of the Wolf, which is always a good sign. Why'd you choose it?
I mean, this is the answer I always give when someone asks me, what do you like that is terrible? And Brotherhood of the Wolf is objectively a terrible movie.
It sure is.
Yes, I'd agree.
Almost nothing that it's putting out works or is good in any way.
It's true.
Which is incredible, because you'd think that, like, topless Monica Bellucci plus Mortal Kombat character selection screen plus Apocalypse Now plus French martial arts, you'd think something would work just by accident.
Yeah, they're throwing so much at the wall. Right. Something ought to stick.
And it just doesn't. It just does not.
It's true. It's not for lack of trying, though.
I will say the one thing this movie has, and this is a very hard thing to fuck up, the outdoor distance shots are really great.
Yeah. You get some beautiful French countryside in there. I'm not going to take that away.
And somehow it's managed to become this incredibly aesthetically influential thing, which is really funny. Like, this is the definitive aesthetic keystone for Bloodborne, which is one of the most popular video games there is.
Yeah. And it itself is drawing from Soul Calibur.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting line of heritage from video game to film to video game.
Truly just an incredible tree of stupidity.
So, for any listeners that haven't seen it, just so we can have a brief summary to hold in your mind, the plot of this film is there's a mysterious beast ravaging the rural province of Gevaudan in the mid-18th century, and the only people that can stop it are an adventuring naturalist named Gregor and his mysterious Iroquois companion, Manny. Fair enough?
Yeah.
Yep.
So, Gretchen, how did you come across this movie? What's your history with Brotherhood of the Wolf?
Well, my history with Brotherhood of the Wolf is that I think I was about 14 and Netflix was still doing DVD delivery, and I thought it looked cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And, at 14, I was like, wow, I was right. This is awesome.
Yeah.
I wish every movie was like this. And at 35 now, I'm like, wow, what an incredibly stupid film that I still love.
That's fair. Had either of you guys seen this one before?
Yeah. I'm 90% sure... Well, no, I'm 90% sure of whose dorm room I saw it in. That's not important. But I know that I saw it in a dorm room, like, shortly after it came out. It would have been another video library rental of somebody's. And, and again, it just got rented because it looked cool. And I know that the guys I watched it with were the same guys that I watched play Soul Calibur 2 for hours at this time. So it was very funny to me to watch it again 20 years later, and because I had remembered it as being much better. I remembered it as being good. It is not good.
No.
No. What about you, Greg?
So I feel like I remember this movie to an extent just like existing. Because the basic cover image is very familiar to me, but it's definitely since I have played Bloodborne, and Amazon and various things are recommending things to me, this keeps kind of popping up, and I'm always just thinking, it looks like Bloodborne. And that's basically the whole extent of my interaction with this movie, is just thinking, that looks like Bloodborne. And then never clicking on it.
Yeah. I remember, for me, I remember when this one came out on DVD. This was back when I was at the video store. And it was definitely one that, like, everybody watched. And everybody was like, oh, that was cool. And then you never thought about it ever again. It just instantly erased itself from your mind. And you probably almost definitely were not paying attention when you watched it. But just got the vague idea that, like, oh, yeah, something cool. Yeah. It's French. Yeah, they're doing it. Good for you, France. You're doing it.
That's honestly the ideal experience to have with this movie.
Yeah, just to let it just slide over your brain and then you move on with your life.
Exactly.
Well, I think we are really moving at a great clip. You love to see it. Never happens on your favorite bad movie podcast. We're already up to the context portion of the show.
Yes.
So Brotherhood of the Wolf comes out 2001, directed by Christophe Gans, and he's also the co-writer on this one. Gans was born in 1960, and he grew up in Antibes, France, on the French Riviera. Sounds beautiful. As a teen, he would make Super 8 martial arts films with his buddies. Okay. And that's sort of the vibe that I got off this guy through examining his filmography, is that the tragedy of Christophe Gans is that he desperately wants to make a martial arts movie, but no one will let him do it because he's French. It's this poor man, just born in the wrong circumstances. He later attended l'Institut des Hautes Études Cinématographiques, or the Institute for Advanced Cinematographic Studies, a prominent French film school. Other notable alumni include Louis Malle, Alain Resnais, Claire Denis, Jean-Jacques Arnaud, Costa Gavras, and personal favorite of the show, Jesus Franco.
Oh, yes.
Boy, it does him no favors to be mentioned in the same sentence as Claire Denis.
No, he is probably not on the brochure that they're putting out.
I'm also genuinely shocked that Jesus Franco went to that school.
Well, he knew how to make a movie. They taught him that.
He certainly did do that.
Yeah.
Technically.
Yes, certainly. He shot them. He edited. He knew the physical process.
He shot.
Now, at this point in his career, Gans had directed only 2 other films. He had directed a segment of the anthology film Necronomicon, along with Shusuke Kaneko, who would later go on to direct several Gamera movies and one Godzilla movie, and also the 2 live-action Death Note movies. And he also, another co-director on there was Brian Yuzna, the director of Society, Bride of Reanimator.
Brian Yuzna!
Love Brian Yuzna. The Dentist, Faust, Love of the Damned. I mean, just an unbeatable gore director.
Yeah.
Society all-time classic.
Really one of the greats. Anytime your credits include Screamin' Mad George, it's just off to the fucking races.
Yeah. Of all the dream collaborators you could have on any horror film, I'm going to say Screamin' Mad George.
It's like seeing creature effects by, and you're like, yes!
So Yuzna and Gans must have built a solid enough working relationship, because Yuzna produced Gans's next film, Crying Freeman, an adaptation of a manga about a hidden man who weeps for his victims that was written by the writer of Lone Wolf of Cub and Lady Snowblood, Kazuo Koike. And I was able to track down Crying Freeman. It's a very difficult film to find, but I got help from Matt Finnegan, who listeners might know from our episode about robot jocks. He was able to track Crying Freeman down for me. A little bit of a disappointment because I'm a big fan of the manga. But it had a very similar problem to this film in that it was overly ambitious.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can't accuse him of shooting low.
Yeah, he didn't come in and just punch a clock. You know what I got?
He's truly ending up among the stars, dying of explosive decompression.
Yeah. But that Crying Freeman did star Mark Dacascos, who I'm a big fan of. And so I did a lot of Mark Dacascos research for my prep. Gans would collaborate with Mark Dacascos again when he cast him in Brotherhood of the Wolf to play Manny and Iroquois. Unfortunately, Dacascos is not Iroquois or even of Native American descent, but of Chinese, Filipino, Spanish, Irish, and Japanese ancestry.
Incredibly French move.
Yeah. The Europeans do not give a shit who plays a Native American. Doing this in 2001, even Hollywood would not pull this. I mean, they might. I don't want to give them too much credit, but they'd at least get called out for it.
Yeah, what year did Exodus, Gods and Kings come out? I love Ridley Scott, but come on.
Yeah, fair enough. There's a long history of white people playing Native Americans in European films, most notably the character of Winnetou, a fictional Apache chief that was played by French actor Pierre Brice 11 times between 1962 and 1968.
That seems crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot of times to be putting that makeup on for 6 years straight. But I mean, I guess it's steady work when you're French actor Pierre Brice. You got to take what you can get.
I suppose.
Dacascos is a martial artist as well as an actor. His primary art is Woon Hop Kuen Do, a martial art that was invented by his father, Al Dacascos.
Oh, how about that?
Okay.
Woon Hop Kuen Do is derived from Kaju Kenbo, a mixed martial art, actually, allegedly the first mixed martial art, that was developed in the late 40s in Hawaii by a group of 5 masters of assorted martial arts, including karate, tang sudo, jiu-jitsu, kung fu, and boxing, who wanted to create a practical system of self-defense for people walking the mean streets of post-war Oahu.
That's rad.
Okay.
I thought that was really interesting, and I really had to say it.
Yeah, that is interesting.
The rest of the cast I did not find nearly as interesting as Dacascos, who I'm mostly a fan of because he was the star of the definitive capoeira film Only the Strong. Gretchen, have you seen Only the Strong?
I have not.
If you're ever in the mood to see Mark Dacascos play a Green Beret who travels to Miami to teach inner city school kids capoeira.
Oh my God. How could I not?
Yeah, it's an all-timer. It's great, and he's great in it. Lots of great capoeira fight scenes. It's great. Let's see. But some other facts about the cast. Vincent Cassel and Monica Bellucci were married at the time of filming.
Oh, good for them.
By an odd coincidence, Cassel studied capoeira.
Oh.
He really identifies with the culture of Brazil and lived in Brazil for a long time. He's like a French Brazilaboo, I guess. Samuel Lebihan, who played our lead, he never really crossed over to American audiences. He spent the last 10 years of his career, though, he landed a plum gig where he is now playing the titular police officer in a show called Alex Hugo, where he's a big city cop that moves to the mountains, and he earns the nickname La Tendresse, which means the tenderness.
Oh.
So I'd watch that show. That's
God, yeah. I would love to sit down and take in like 12 hours of French police procedurals.
Yeah, just munching on some popcorn, not getting out of your pajamas. Hell yeah. So just to put a thing in its place, last bit of context. The other films, adventure films of 2001, I'm going to classify this one as an adventure,
Yeah, I
just
think that's
broadly. From 2001, we had Lord of the Ring, Fellowship of the Ring, Jurassic
Okay.
Park 3,
Oh, wow.
The Mummy Returns, Ocean's 11,
Mm-hmm.
the original Fast and the Furious, and tune into our last episode if you haven't heard it about Fast and the Furious Tokyo Drift. Also, Rush Hour, and a personal favorite of mine that year, Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal. Has anyone else seen? Have you guys seen Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal?
I have
I
not.
have not.
I mean, I watched it with you, yes.
It's so good. It's okay. Quick diversion to Turbulence 3 Heavy Metal. It's about a plane where a goth band is holding their final concert, and they're going to live stream it. But then it gets taken over by cult members who want to crash the plane into a haunted church once the live stream hits 1 million viewers. So the lead singer of the goth band, whose name is Slade Craven,
Yes.
he has to die hard his way through the plane with the help of a hacker that is watching the live stream and take it back from the cult members.
So
It's fantastic.
Air Force One for metalheads. That sounds so fucking good.
And the goth has a doppelganger. I didn't mention the goth
Oh.
lead singer. There's a doppelganger.
Nice.
Of
I
course
actually
he
have
does.
seen this. I watched it with you because I remember goth band on a plane has to save plane.
Yeah. You never see a goth hero. It's great to see them get
Not
some
typically, yeah.
representation.
Yeah. And not in like a, haha, isn't this funny? But they actually are
Yeah.
good. It's like, no, they're a goth band.
It's
and just
just
do it.
Slade, Craven, and the Crow, and that's
Mhm.
it. So, with that, I think that's the end of my context. So I'm ready to head on to the plot if you guys are.
Yeah.
I sure am.
Let's keep this train running on time.
Yes!
Blood Bumper, listen to me. I'm gonna give you the plot summary. Come on, baby, here's the synopsis. Blood Bumper, Blood Bumper.
We open on an aristocrat writing in his journal. He's going to be narrating the movie, he tells us. And then we start the movie. We dissolve to a woman wandering the French countryside, covered in blood. She hears a growl, and then we see her get slammed repeatedly into a giant boulder by an unseen assailant. This was the funniest attack of the entire film. It's great to start off.
It's really great physical comedy.
At this point, I wrote, this movie is bonkers.
Yeah. And it's weird that it doesn't sustain that tone.
No,
It
it
could
does.
almost-
Like, the first 20 minutes, I was just like, oh, hell yeah. And then after that, it was like, oh, this is kind of a different movie at this point, actually.
It's different movies at a lot of points.
Oh, I actually wrote that. I was like, this movie keeps changing movies.
Yeah, I mean, when it opens, it's trying to do Jaws, and then it
Mhm.
quickly transitions to like a chamber drama.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. To me, I think I wrote down that it was like if Dances with Wolves had a Bigfoot in it and Bigfoot worked for the Illuminati, and then, like it's just, there's a lot happening. So I'm
Yeah,
glad we got
so
to the
much.
plot
It's a
early.
very busy film.
But yeah, it almost has like a Raimi-esque vibe, the way she's getting slammed into this rock over and over, but
Yeah,
it changes tone almost instantly. We find out that it's 1764 and that Gevaudan, the province in southeastern France, I think, is under attack. Luckily, the king has sent his head gardener, Gregoire. Well, I'm going to call Greg because I feel like I'm not going to be able to pronounce Gregoire correctly at any point.
It's going to really be weird for me, but I'm going to run with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anytime.
Can you not call him Fransac? That's what they call him in the movie.
Yeah, I
It's
kind of
Seven
forgot
Days
that his name was
of Rock.
Gregoire.
Okay.
Yeah.
I chose Greg early on in my notes because it was fast to write, and then it
Yeah, that
got
makes sense.
written down in my brain that way. All right, Fronsac.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, the head gardener's there, and he's sort of like an adventuring naturalist, and he's going to take care of the situation. And luckily, he bought his far more competent, faithful companion, Mani, a mystic Iroquois who has been civilized and brought to Europe. This is kind of rough. And I'm going to say if this character is a deal breaker for anyone in the audience, I get that and I respect that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just straight up racist.
No,
Yeah.
and there's like sometimes it's like I can glance over it at this scene, but then there's like a huge like 20-minute chunk in the middle where it's just like, okay, this is not appropriate and we shouldn't be doing what we're doing.
And the problem is I really like the character of Manny is really cool.
Yeah.
He's a great actor. He really sells the terrible, terrible role.
Yeah.
And what's
And
good
he's-
about it is he doesn't need to be like he could be from anywhere realistically.
Yeah. He could have said he found the guy in Hawaii and we would have been like, okay, well, at least he lived there at some point. That's fine.
Right.
We get a little bit of a rainy day fight scene where Manny beats up some men that are disguised as lady that are beating up an old man and a witch. And the old man and the witch are sort of tertiary to the rest of the plot. They pop up here and there, but I didn't include them in my notes because there's a lot going on.
I also didn't fully understand how they were actually involved in the end, so I think that's totally fine.
Yeah. Manny and the witch share a moment of eye contact, which conveys that something will happen between them, but nothing really does. And then the boys ride on to the palaces of Gevaudan.
You know what that moment of eye contact really reminds me of?
What's
is like the third or fourth scene in Roadhouse where Dalton is at the bar and we get that slow zoom in on Ben Gazzara's girlfriend just eyeing him up and down like she wants to eat him. And it's like, wow, this is like a shot that you start a burn down the house, home wrecking romance with, and then nothing ever happens. Nothing comes of it at all.
No.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a very unintentional misdirect.
Yeah.
So they once they get to the palace, they meet an assortment of aristocrats, including the Marquis, an earnest young man that likes following Fronsac around. We also meet Jean-Francois, played by Vincent Cassel, smarmy one-armed princeling. And we also meet Father Sardist, a fancy priest, and we meet a bunch of other assholes.
Yeah.
Who are all... There's too many assholes. They should have singled this down to like 3 guys.
Yeah.
It's another this scene because all the aristocrats are like dressed in variations of red, and we've got harpsichord music. It reminded me of like similar scenes in both Underworld and Mask of the Red Death. I think it's interesting that aristocrats seem to sit around in rooms.
Yeah, they love chilling.
Yeah.
That's what I would do. We also meet Marianne, a charming ingenue, who is also... most of these people are related in some way, but I'm not sure how.
Yeah.
Marianne is the love interest, right?
Well,
the
sort of.
Just the flattest character of all time. There's nothing there.
Yeah. Well, especially when you see her competition.
I didn't even mention Marianne in my notes till, I think, page 6. More than halfway through the movie was the first time she did something where I was like, well, I should write this down.
Yeah.
She's very much just like he sees her, he flirts with her, she kind of flirts back.
Yeah.
And then we move on, and then they see each other again, and it's not even a will they, won't they. It's just like, that seems sort of antagonistic.
They
And
definitely
then they
don't
move
have any
on.
kind of chemistry.
No.
She should not be in the film.
Probably not, no.
If you were looking to trim some of the 2.5-hour running time off of this movie,
And
And
you should-
you
realistically,
definitely should.
An hour of that should be in the garbage.
Yeah.
Yeah. If this movie was a tight 96 minutes, it would be a game changer.
Oh, yeah.
Now, there's a fancy dinner party where Greg charms Marianne away from a young playwright who delivers a surprisingly, I thought, earnest and a nice poem about a wolf. And then he passes a furred trout around the dinner table, which is a classic carny fake.
Yeah.
Much like you would sew a monkey to a fish to make a mermaid, or they used to call dried skates Jenny Hannovers and sell them as like little dead babies.
Yeah.
Oh,
That sort of situation.
I love the furry trout.
The furry trout was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it's there to set up the much larger fake taxidermy later in the film.
Yeah.
Yes, that's Chekhov's furry trout.
Yeah.
But all the aristocrats are sort of into it, except for Kassovitz, who says, "Hey,
Cassell.
that's fake." Cassell,
you-
I kept on calling him Kassovitz.
I don't know who Kassovitz is.
It works.
Kassovitz was in Hate.
Ah.
Anyway, Cassell calls him out on it. Soon the investigation for the beast it begins in earnest. There's been a beast this whole time. Greg Fronsack interviews some eyewitnesses who say the beast is definitely not a wolf. And of course, that means everyone who in power is like, it's just a big wolf. These are just dumb country people.
Also, he shows some of his drawings, and they're like the most like comic book art I've ever seen.
These drawings are beautiful.
They are great,
Crazy.
but it's just like in the style of a graphic novel from like 1994. It's just like there's no way that this is how people were drawing this at that point in time.
It bears no relationship to 18th century art.
No.
No, this is, but this is heightened. This isn't a
Oh, sure.
documentary. This is film.
Sure. Have some license. Have a little play.
And I did think the illustrations in this were all genuinely nice illustrations. I'll give them that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, they find a nude dead corpse, and it has a giant bite taken out of the side of it. And there's a metal tooth in there.
Ooh, how about that?
Fronsack's like, methinks wolves have no metal teeth, me lord. Some of that actually happened earlier in the film. I got my timelines a little messed up. But while we were there, we met Captain Duhamel, who was the leader of the soldiers that were dressed up as women that were beating up that old man before. They were dressed up as women to act as bait for the wolf. It turns out that plan didn't work.
That explains. I wrote down like, what's with these cartoon villains, but that makes more sense now.
Yeah.
I did not catch that that's what they were doing, but it's easy to miss things in this.
No, there's a lot of things.
Yeah.
Anyway, Duhamel is calling for a big hunt. He says, listen, we're just going to get everybody out there all at once. We're all just going to go gun blazing, and we're going to shoot every fucking thing we can see. Problem solved. I can't fault his logic. Everybody is there, from noblemen to what appear to be some sort of French cavemen. Does anyone know what their deal? Were they supposed to be Romani, or were they supposed to be some like pagan French people? Were they like Gauls?
I truly couldn't tell you.
I assumed it was kind of Romani, kind of.
Well, I saw in the languages in Wikipedia, it said one of the languages spoken this was Occitan, which is like a French ancient language. They weren't speaking Romani. So
Okay.
I think they might have been like pre-French people.
That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to include in a film.
Yes, that's a true statement.
That there's just a gang of cavemen that our hero needs to fight. Now, Manny kicks a bunch of people's ass, which is great. Anytime Mark Dacascos is kicking ass in this movie, that part is good.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Up two very large ladies too. That's a great part of this film.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. And you can see that this is the part that like Christophe Gans is like actually interested in.
Yeah.
Like even when I was watching Crying Freeman in the action scenes, the martial arts were better than the guns. This guy just wants to do martial arts. Someone let Christophe Gans make a martial arts movie.
I'd love to see that.
He'd probably do it for free. Now, he kicks a bunch of people's ass while things are still getting set up. And then John Francois is also there. And he demonstrates his cool gun that he can fire with only one arm because he's only got that one arm. And he also he shows that he uses silver bullets so he can mark his prey. So God bless him. So all the dudes, they head out there and they just slaughter a bunch of wolves, except for Manny, Fronsac, and Marianne, who go and they hang out around a derelict Templar temple and just sort of relax for a little bit. And at one point, a wolf pops by, and Fronsac's like, "Don't shoot it." And so they
It's
don't
a
shoot
white
it.
wolf.
It's a white wolf,
It's a
just like the
special-
role-playing game system.
That's
Yeah.
right.
And Manny's like, "Thank you for not shooting that wolf. He is my brother." And then that night, the Aristos all celebrate all the wolves they killed. They did a great job. And Manny comes over. He tells everybody they're spirit animals, except for Jean-Francois, who has bad vibes and therefore will not be told his spirit animal. It's probably like, your spirit animal is a big piece of shit.
Yeah. He's also pretty drunk.
Yeah, he's also being like a dickhead. But he also has bad vibes.
He sure does.
After the soiree, Fronsac, Manny, and the Marquis decide they need to blow off some steam. So they head out to the local brothel, where Fronsac meets Sylvia, a beautiful prostitute. The two of them have knife sex.
Yep.
And, she's played by Monica Bellucci. And I'm not normally a knife sex guy, but if that's what's going on with Monica Bellucci, I'll make it work.
Yeah, I mean, what are you made of stone?
Yeah, I mean, come on. Yeah. I'm willing to, you know what? I think I'm ready to try it now that you're Monica Bellucci. The next day, there are reports that the beast has struck again. Looks like the kill all the wolves trick didn't work, especially because it's not a wolf. There are now a couple kids missing. Greg finds the boy who is dead, and Manny, with the help of his loyal wolf friend, he finds the little girl alive, but passed out underneath a tree. With his failure, Duhamel is now relieved of duty. And the king is sending in his weapons master, Antoine. Antoine's kind of an asshole.
Big
what can you do?
asshole.
Yeah.
The king, sometimes he needs an asshole to work for him. What can you say? Antoine shoots a nearby very large wolf and tells Fronsac he needs him to taxidermy a fake corpse just to sweep this whole thing under the rug. We need to move on with our lives. I don't care about these bumpkins getting killed. Whatever. Fronsac feels pretty bad about this. So, like any good Frenchman, he goes to have sex with his prostitute.
Classic.
Yeah. He gives her a beautiful illustration of her nude body. Unfortunately, he was followed. And Jean-Francois delivers the illustration to Marianne, who received a much more chaste portrait from Fronsac earlier in the film. At some point when they were interacting. She dumps him.
I mean, were they
Fronsac-
dating?
Well, now they definitely won't be. He is
Yeah,
no
yeah.
longer... She has made it clear we are no longer a thing. So, at this point, Fronsac's feeling pretty dejected. So he leaves town with Manny, and they bring the taxidermied beast to Paris to present it to the royal court. The Minister of Interior pulls him aside and explains this was all his idea. This whole make a fake beast situation. Because the whole thing had become embarrassing for the king. Someone had been publishing a book about it. He's had to censor the book. There's a lot going on.
Brother.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. We need to nip this one in the bud. Meanwhile,
What's crazy about this is that if you take all the money and regal power out of the equation, it's essentially a Seinfeld plot.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
A small irritation has become embarrassing, and we need to take drastic, insane action to crush it.
yeah,
Yeah.
definitely seems like, but boy, they can't find this dang beast. It's almost like it's supernatural.
Isn't that interesting? And at this point, it kind of becomes a horror movie.
Or is it?
Kind of.
Yeah, it veers into horror a little bit. We do get a monster.
I also wrote this whole movie feels like a montage right
yeah.
around this time. It really does.
Yeah, and it's hard to tell how long
Yeah.
the timeline is in this.
It's very unclear. A month, 2 months, a week, who knows?
There's no establishing of time.
Yeah. Well, meanwhile, back in Gevaudan, Sylvia has convinced Marianne to forgive Fronsac. Fronsac knows that the beast is still out there, so when he gets a letter from Marianne, he's like, yes, now I've got 2 reasons to go back. I'm doing it. One of them, that girl that I love, who appears to be about at least 15 years younger.
Yeah.
Oh, like we don't do that.
Fair, yeah, once again, it's easy for me to point fingers. He meets up with Marianne at a remote farmhouse, and they French kiss, or as they call it, kiss, for a while. But unfortunately, the beast is also there. It kills a farm guy in the basement. Farmer is what they call him. One of those farm people kills them in the basement.
A farmist.
Yeah. One of those farmingans. Anyway, he's dead. But Greg does get a good look at the beast. So now he decides, okay, it's here. I have to kill it. This is a serious situation.
This time it's for real. Look good, by the way.
I'm sorry?
It does not look good.
No, it doesn't look good.
When we get the first full view of the beast,
it's
the
dreadful.
CGI is very bad.
It's hard to parse what it is.
It's like a PlayStation 2, not even a cutscene, just like something moving.
Yeah, just a sprite
across the screen. Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, I think part of it is that there wasn't enough contrast in it, so it just looked kind of like a brown and gray blob.
Yeah,
and they're not playing to their strengths. You know, they should be hiding this thing a lot more than they are.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And
you could tell, like, all of the CGI in this is a lot of, like, look at this. And it's just like, I see it. It's not great.
Yeah, you made a very poor decision. Thank you.
And there were effects on this by the Jim Henson Creature Shop. I imagine they did the practical close-ups.
Yeah.
Where it looked, I'm going to say much better. But then
much
practical
better.
close-ups almost always look much better than CGI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, let's see. Oh, yeah. They decide, okay, this time it's serious. So we cut and we find out the beast is now, it's serving some sort of master, wearing some sort of mask. He has a whistle that makes the beast come around. And he's in league with the French cavemen, and they have a lair, and they do dog fights in the lair. And the beast fights the dogs. It seems like a bad guy kind of place.
Yeah.
Fronsac, Manny, and the Marquis get prepped to take down the beast with a little lock and load target practice scene. They say Manny doesn't use guns because they smell bad. He just uses his trusty tomahawk. And he's awesome, and he's ripped to shit. And he puts on some sick-ass war paint, and he's got some really cool tattoos. And he gives everyone magic mushrooms. And the Marquis has like a little, this edible ain't shit moment. Then he passes out.
There was a weird thing for me, because I was like, why would we do drugs right before we go on the hunt?
It's a spiritual journey.
Okay, sure.
I mean, would you want to do that sober?
I would prefer to do it sober, I think.
Fair enough. Now, let's see. The next day, the hunt goes a little bit poorly. The beast largely evades their traps, and when Manny breaks off to track it, he does find the bad guy lair, and he does beat up a bunch of cavemen, but then he gets shot in the back by the mysterious masked man that owns the beast.
Yeah.
R.I.P. to Manny. That's a shame.
I was
The
very sad
only
to see him
competent
go.
character.
Yeah.
What? 45 minutes before the end? Insane decision.
Very crazy.
There's a lot of movie without Manny in here.
Too much.
Boy, is there.
Now, Greg finds Manny's corpse face down in a creek. He brings it home and performs a surprisingly sensual autopsy. And
Very.
then finds one of Jean-Francois' signature silver bullets in his back.
Yeah, it's not a great idea to kill someone with the thing you admit lets people know who killed the thing that was killed.
Yeah,
That's well put.
he should have put gold bullets in there specifically to throw people off the case.
Who could this be?
Well, you know it's not me because, well, you know. So this pisses Fronsac off a lot. So he heads back to the catacombs, where he also takes out a bunch of cavemen, but then he gets arrested, which was weird.
No, he killed people.
Yeah, he did kill people. I just never. This didn't seem like that. I wasn't expecting there to be cops. I didn't think cops existed.
So I don't think that they did. The honest truth is that, like, when this happened, I was like, wait a minute. There's retribution for killing people who attacked him in this movie that is just indiscriminately killing people and animals. And, like, you get to watch a wolf autopsy. And you get to watch a human autopsy, and then it's just like, well, you shouldn't have killed those villains in that cave. It's like, really?
I feel
I'd have
like
thought everybody'd be into it.
I feel like that's part of like the power of the state and the power of the church and colonialism and sex and class and race are all things that the movie like touches on, in that there, something will happen and you'll be like, oh, right, it was terrible to be a maid in the provinces because guys would grope you or whatever.
Right.
But then they just move on. It's just an incredibly shallow, and almost all of it seems unnecessary. I feel like.
Definitely. I would agree with basically all of that statement.
Yeah, it's just none of it is very interesting. They're like, it's him ticking boxes. Like, I know this is a thing. I know this is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the next thing is Greg is in jail. He gets visited by Sylvia, the beautiful prostitute, who explains that she's actually a spy working for the Pope. She slips him some poison, and he dies. He has a fucking funeral. Meanwhile, Jean-Francois is hanging out with Father Sardis, who is also a character in this film, and has also been doing things. And
I completely forgot about their existence at this point.
Yeah. Father Sardis was a real extraneous character.
Yeah.
But Sardis, he's been in on this beast plan. He and Jean-Francois, they're on the same team. And we also find out that Jean-Francois, what he really wants to do more than anything else in the world is fuck his sister.
Which is an interesting thing I didn't expect at that point. It came really out of nowhere for me.
I didn't get that from Cassell's performance through the rest of the film.
No.
And that's something that I think Cassell could easily have been putting in there. Incestuous brother is in that guy's wheelhouse.
That makes sense.
He's the dictionary entry,
Yeah, he's typecast as the incestuous brother, so I'm surprised I didn't pick up on that earlier. And the next scene, he rapes Marianne.
Completely. I mean, this was just like, why are we doing this now? Like, why this at this point? Did we need this on top of everything else?
It's not even that I think it's bad to do this or make art about this.
No, Gretchen, I want you on record saying that people shouldn't make art about rape.
It's just that I don't want to see this guy make art about it.
Yes, I agreed with you there.
There's a certain responsibility that comes with making art about delicate subjects, and I don't think he lives up to those responsibilities.
Just the burden of skill. A lot of awful people have made like really interesting art about sexual assault. And this is not one of those instances. This is a guy who, for all I know, is a very nice dude, just blundering around in the dark.
Yeah, no, this is definitely his arms were too short to box with God. He is in over his head.
And like at this point, like I sort of knew that Fronsac was going to come back based on some of the clues that they gave us, But like as a viewer, I was like, so the three main characters are dead or incapacitated from a rape.
Yeah. Oh, and also the Marquis had his arm bitten off.
Yeah, it's like what are we doing now? Like who am I supposed to
Right. Who's the
follow or
protagonist now?
Yeah,
Yeah.
like what exactly is like we're going to keep going with the movie? That's not the end of the movie? Like there's more plot?
They should have pulled a Psycho and just introduced a new protagonist.
That would have been great.
But instead of doing that, they have Greg get dug up from his grave by Sylvia. Turns out he's alive. The poison was fake. Just put him into a coma. So he puts the war
Or
paint back
whatever.
on. He steals Manny's war paint. Classic co-option.
And then he does like an unironic shot for shot Apocalypse Now massacre.
Mhm.
Yeah. He goes and he takes out Sardis's secret society, which has existed this whole time. And it turns out a lot of those aristocrats we already met were in it. And they've been running.
Is it at this point? Is it at this point where the scalping occurs, or is that later?
That occurs here. He scalps someone there.
Okay. That was another thing where I was like, okay, so we're also adding this now to everything else that we are doing.
Yeah.
And I guess it's like an act of vengeance for Manny, which is a crazy reason to do that.
Yep.
Yeah. Manny would have wanted me to. He always said to scalp his killer or a friend of
Right,
his killer.
you know, it's like my Italian friend was killed, so I founded an entire mob and we established ourselves for 25 years and then took revenge.
Yeah. My Polish friend was killed, so I put you on a submarine with a screen door. Now, let's see. So he starts killing a bunch of bad guys there. He's loving it. Sardis flees, only to be killed by wolves, including Manny's best friend, the White Wolf. Duhamel's boys show up and they start arresting people. And Greg gets his showdown with Jean-Francois, who reveals that he's actually had 2 arms the whole time. And one arm was weird.
Oh, it's so weird.
I will say I completely missed, even though I'd seen this before, I completely missed he was supposed to have 1 arm. So it was a big surprise to me. And then he pulls out that, I was saying that his hand looks like that episode of 30 Rock You Can't Stream anymore where Tracy dresses up like a white woman, but it runs out of paint and has to have 1 monster hand. He's got 1
Yeah.
He's got 1 monster hand.
Yeah.
To me, he looked very much like a Soul Calibur Create a character, where he had,
Yeah, that's
the
vibe.
like a bodice and a half cape and 1 big monster arm that had like the dark demon soul in it or whatever. And he had the whip sword that you got from Ivy's pack. And
oh, I forgot about the whip sword somehow.
You love to see a whip sword.
Who doesn't?
So they fight, and Jean-Francois dies. I don't remember how. At this point, I was so glazed out. Sylvia, she heads back to Rome and is like, call me anytime. And for some reason, Fronsac doesn't. And instead settles down with Marianne. But not before meeting up with the old man from the beginning who was taking care of the beast this entire time. And they give it an old yeller. And it turns out the beast this whole time was a lion wearing a suit of armor.
Yeah.
Then we cut back to our narrator, who turned out to be the Marquis the whole time. And he's executed in the French Revolution. The end. Maybe we should have been nicer to the aristocrats.
Maybe.
After walking down the steps past all his very sad servants.
Yeah. We know you're one of the good ones, monsieur.
Yeah.
I actually wrote, I forgot about this framing device. Because there was a narrator. It's like, oh yeah, I forgot that in the beginning there was this setup of someone actually telling this story. It's so long and there's so much going on. It's very easy to forget portions of it when they become pertinent again.
I just watched it like 2 weeks ago, but is there even any other voiceover?
I
Yeah,
think
it happens
in
several
the
times.
middle,
Okay.
yeah,
Not very often, but several times.
yeah, very. It was very pointless because I didn't even care about the character of the Marquis for the rest of the film. You'll notice I barely mentioned him. I forgot to write down that a lion
I
bit
don't. I
his
can't
fucking
even remember
hand
what he
off.
looks like.
Yeah, a little blonde wormy guy. Who's supposed to be like a G. Willikers friend. He's like the Jimmy Olsen. And I will say, like, all this
Yeah.
is very like pulpy in like the 30s sense, like a almost like a Doc Savage kind of vibe.
Yeah.
So he makes sense as like the teen friend that's obsessed with our hero as an audience proxy for the teens that would be watching the film. But I can't imagine being a French teen and being like, I'm just like the Marquis. Well, that was the end of the movie. That means it's time for 5 stars, final thoughts. Who wants to kick us off? Out of 5 stars on our So Good It's Bad rating, Gretchen, what are you going to give this guy?
I would give this movie a perfect 3. I think it's terrible, and it contains a lot of really cool ideas that absolutely don't work. And I'm giving it points for ambition.
Fair enough.
Okay.
I think that's very fair. How about you, Greg? Where you landed?
So, I was very torn on what to give this. It's as bad movies go. There's a few things in it that some bad movie lovers should see. There's some few things in it that no one should see. So I'm a little torn. It's also extremely long, which makes it difficult for me to recommend in any way.
Oh, I would never recommend this movie.
No. So I was gonna do 2.5, but because of what is my baddie award, which I don't want to give it away, I'm gonna bump it up an additional half a star to 3.
Okay, fair enough.
I was just gonna say that the thing that is bumping it up to half a star, like, I like so much that it is worth a half a star to me. It is a full half star for just that moment, but we're gonna get to it later.
Okay, I'm excited. What about you, Anna? Where did you land on it?
I think it's also a solid 3-star. Like I said, it was a lot worse than I remembered it being. That's about the long and short of it.
Yeah. I'm gonna land. I'm gonna drop this one down to 2 for myself. I've been trying all day to remember who said a bad movie is one where you notice people getting in and out of cars a lot. And this definitely felt like a movie where I noticed people getting on and off of horses a lot. You know,
Sure.
Yeah.
there was just
There's so much, like, from a smarter director, you would be tempted to read it as contempt for the audience, but you know that this guy's actually just a huge idiot who's like, well, if I don't show them getting on the horse, how will we know how they got there?
It definitely, it felt like it was made by a guy that didn't quite know how to make a movie. He's so close. And you could see what he likes doing. He really comes alive. I really think he could have made, just get him a Jean-Claude Van Damme movie, and he would have been fine.
There's that great cut from Monica Bellucci's naked body to the hillsides. It's just an all-timer. What a banger of a cut.
Yeah, he had some fun instincts. He was in over his head. I hate to say it, and I'm definitely a short runtime guy. I've got the attention span of a gnat. 2.5 hours. Come on, brother, you got to tighten this up. Well, I think that brings us on to our first segment. It's time for the last act of the show, and it's time for a brand new segment called These Events Are True. These events are true. The events of the film are true. These events are true. What happened in this film is true. These events are true. This film really happened. These events are true. This was a real movie. That's right. The events of this film were actually true. This is based on a true story. Do you guys know that?
Yeah.
This movie?
The Beast of Gevaudan.
Yeah, the Beast of Gevaudan.
I didn't know that.
Yes, 100% true, all of it. Not all of it.
Definitely.
But I researched the Beast of Gevaudan for my last podcast, Uncle Monster's Spooky Time Fright Hour.
This is crazy.
Check out episode 202, which was about the Beast of Gevaudan. I cannot remember the title. But the Beast of Gevaudan was a wolf-like creature the size of a horse that killed somewhere between 50 and 200 people between the years of 1764 and 1767 in the region of Gevaudan, France. A lot of theories will tell you that it was possibly a crossbreed between a French mountain wolf that is, I believe, now extinct and wild wolves. It might have been a living fossil dire wolf, but whatever it was, it killed a lot of people.
Okay.
So word of the attacks did reach Louis XV. And first he sent his squad of dragoons led by the actual Captain Duhamel. Captain Duhamel was real.
Okay.
When they failed to kill the beast, Louis XV hired a father and son team of professional wolf hunters. The father named Jean-Charles Marc-Antoine Vaumezel Donnuel, and his son was named Jean-Francois. These characters are very different from the ones in the film.
Yeah.
They did kill a bunch of wolves, but none of them were the size of a horse. So after that, Louis XV sent his lieutenant to the hunt and personal arquebus bearer, Francois Antoine, who was the character Antoine, to take care of it. And he was able to, after a local farm girl named Marie Jean Vallée mortally wounded the beast while defending herself with a spear. He went and cleaned it up. So that is the true story. So you have to imagine that this movie might have been a little bit like National Treasure, like a French National Treasure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just, drawing enough from real history to be. And I wish I knew what it was like to be a French person, like what you would think of this story. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because it is on the record that like the king sent people out to hunt a monster. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like Johnny Appleseed or something.
Yeah.
In terms of tall tales. It's not a Paul Bunyan.
Yeah.
So, that was that segment. These events are true.
Crazy. That's crazy to me that this is based on a true story in any way.
That never occurred to you while you were watching it?
No. I was just like, this is all completely made up. Like, I don't know
I would
why.
have loved to have been able to lean over to you during the middle of this film when Mark Dacascos was kung fu kicking cavemen next to a lion and said to you, this is based on a true story.
I would have loved that too.
That is probably the only way I could recommend watching this movie is so that you could do that to someone.
That's a good choice. It's a strong choice.
I'd like to mention just a much more recent true story. In late June, a 37-year-old tourist was attacked in a zoo safari park near Paris by 3 wolves. She was mauled by wolves.
Huh.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, she was not supposed to be in the area, but
that makes sense.
Yeah, it's wild. People don't get attacked by wolves in France much anymore. Although they apparently used to get attacked by wolves in France a lot.
How about that?
Yeah, I mean, the further back in history you go, the more wolves is a problem.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, controlling the wolf population was like a major global human effort, I feel like.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we're on to games. And the game that we've got this week is, of course, where did they shoot these feature films?
Oh, nice.
Check. Where did they shoot these movies? Where did they shoot these feature films? That's what we need to guess. That's the segment, baby. That's the segment, sugar. That's the segment where we guess the shooting locations. Guess the locations, baby. Guess the locations, sugar. Guess the locations of these feature-length movie films. Sugar. Honey. Listen, it's time to play Where Did They Shoot These Feature-Length Movie Films? And so I've got 7 films here, their titles and their descriptions. And I want you guys to just guess where you think this film was shot.
You looking for country? You looking for city?
I will give you 1 point for country, 1 point for city if I know it.
Okay.
And these are all films that have lions in them. That's their commonality.
Okay.
Okay.
So question number 1. The Ghost and the Darkness.
Oh.
Val Kilmer and Michael Douglas hunt a pair of man-eating lions that terrorize railway workers. Based on a true story. Just
yeah,
like...
I've seen the lions, or one of them at least, is in Chicago, I want to say. The Field Museum, maybe? I've seen one of them.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I'm going to guess Namibia.
Okay, Namibia. Interesting choice. Greg, what about you?
So this is I feel like this one's going to be weird, so I'm going to say like some kind of soundstage in England.
Okay. Interesting choice. Gretchen, do you have a guess?
Toronto.
All right, Toronto. Always a solid guess for a filming location, but this was shot in the Songimvelo Game Preserve in South Africa. That one they went down to South Africa.
That's good.
Get some beautiful shots of the savannah in that movie. All right, question number 2. Buona Devil, 1952. Robert Stack hunts a pair of man-eating lions that terrorize railway workers. Based on a true story.
Okay.
This was also the first feature-length film that was shot in 3D in color.
Wow.
Yeah. Buona Devil.
Arizona.
Okay, Greg, what do you think?
Los Angeles, California.
All right. And what about you, Gretchen?
Toronto.
Okay, Toronto, very solid guess. But once again, I'm going to say Anna and Greg get a point for Crunchy. It was shot in America, but in the San Fernando Valley.
Okay.
Question number 3.
I see.
Savage Harvest, 1981. Tom Skerritt and his family are besieged by a pack of ravenous lions driven mad by drought.
Wow.
What do you think we shot that one, sweetie?
Kenya.
Okay, Kenya, good choice. Greg?
Tanzania.
Bold. What about you, Gretchen?
I've given it some careful, extensive thought.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to have to go with Toronto.
I was really hoping you were going to.
I respect it. No points for anyone. This was shot in Brazil.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay.
You don't hear of a lot of movies getting shot in Brazil.
You don't typically know.
No, not my first choice. Question number 4, Secondhand Lions, 2003. Haley Joel Osment moves in with his uncles, Robert Duvall and Michael Caine. For some reason, they purchase a lioness from a circus.
Wow.
Yeah, that's what that movie was about the whole time.
Yeah.
Why would anyone make or watch that?
I don't know, but someone I work in a bookstore that sells like DVDs, and someone's like, "I love secondhand lions," and I was just like, "Okay, I'm not going to respond to that."
Yeah.
I'm gonna say it was filmed in Oregon.
Oregon, okay. What about you, Greg? What are you thinking?
I just want to say Ohio, so I'm going to say it. Ohio.
Okay, I'd love to hear you say Ohio. Gretchen, any thoughts?
I was actually toying with saying Ohio, but now that the base has been covered, I'm going to go back to my old standby. You know, I'm sticking with something I feel comfortable with. It's Toronto.
Yes.
Fair enough. I mean, what we always say around here, when all else fails, go with Toronto. That was shot in Lockhart, Texas.
Okay.
All right,
Okay.
3 more to go. Roar from 1981. This was an adventure comedy directed by Noel Marshall, starring himself, his wife, Tippi Hedren, and her daughter, Melanie Griffith. During the 5 years it took to film this, over 70 members of the cast and crew were attacked by wildcats, including Melanie Griffith, who needed 50 stitches in her face, and director of photography Jan de Bont, who needed 120 stitches after a lion ripped off his entire scalp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Where do you think they shot that one?
I actually know where they shot this. So it was shot in California, and I cannot remember the name of the city, but it's on their private game preserve where they essentially host these rescue animals.
Okay.
Well,
Oh.
are you guys going to poach Gretchen's answer?
I'm actually going to say Toronto.
Okay, good idea. We want to make sure, just in case.
I'm gonna try to guess I'm gonna say Sacramento.
Okay. Anna gets the country. That's a point for you. Gretchen leaps up to 2. I will consider their private game preserve near Acton, California. 100% correct. Anna and Gretchen are now tied for the lead. Question number 6. The Lion Hunt from 1907. A short silent film where 2 captive lions play the role of wild lions and are shot, gutted, and skinned. The film was widely protested at the time.
Oh my
Holy
god!
crap. Okay.
Yeah, truly
Fuck me.
grotesque.
This makes my gut reaction feel correct.
Okay.
And that is wherever Edison had his camera. Because I know he couldn't move it, so I feel like he would probably kill and gut a lion on camera. That makes sense to me.
So you're thinking like Long Island.
The
Yeah.
Black Mariah is in New Jersey.
So there we go.
Okay. What about you, Anna? What do you think?
I was thinking New York.
Sorry, this was filmed in Copenhagen, Denmark. Only the Danes could create a film so perverse.
Those
Wow.
bastards.
Yeah.
All right, last one. Born Free, a New Adventure from 1996. Jonathan Brandis and Ariana Richards, who you might know as the girl from Jurassic Park, pull a free willy on a young lioness.
I remember this movie. This was a big movie when I was a small child.
I liked Jonathan Brandis. R.I.P. to a real one.
Yeah. I want to say Kenya.
Okay. Anna, what do you think?
I'll say Tanzania.
Tanzania? Classic choice. Great film board. What about you, Greg?
Just because it's the last one, I feel like it's important that we have Toronto in there again. So again, I'm going to say Toronto.
Well, I wish I could give you the point. That one was filmed in Johannesburg, South Africa.
Oh,
Yeah. South
So
Africa
I'm
is
gonna
a strong choice for filming a lion film, I suppose.
Yeah. I mean, you got the outdoors that fit. So congratulations to Gretchen and Anna, tied for first place. The big
Hey.
winner.
Woo!
we really walked away with that.
Congratulations to our listeners. You've made it to our final segment. It's time for the Baddie Awards. Now you're messing with 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 the Baddie Awards. Congratulations to all the nominees. congratulations to all our nominees. It's time for the Baddie Awards. Who's got a Baddie Award? Who wants to go first? I'll start if people are feeling shy.
Sure.
Here I go. My Baddie Award is the I Ship It So Hard Award. If I was going on to AO3 and I was looking for fanfic, I'm going for Manny Sylvia fanfic. I think
Fair
that's
enough.
the obvious choice. I mean,
I like
the
it.
fact that those two didn't hook up was the real tragedy of the film.
Man, I don't know. I feel like it's got to be her and Vincent Castle. Just like it's right, you know, like that much European decadence in one room. Just like mush them together.
Yeah, but at that point you're getting awfully close to writing real people fiction if they're already married, you know?
I don't care. What are their lives to me? They're nothing to me.
That's true. That's true. It's all grist
They're
for the
dolls
middle.
who dance for my amusement. Actors have no dignity.
Fair enough.
It's
fair
true.
enough. But
Undignified
I mean,
profession.
did you see that guy's pecs? He was cut out of rock. Oh well. Anyway,
he's
take salt.
ripped out.
Who's got their Baddie Award? Anybody? Greg, I'm picking you.
So I had one. So my Baddie Award goes to the fucking craziest editing transition I've ever seen in my life. We mentioned it earlier, but the CGI or composited woman's body turns into mountainside.
Mhm.
Like, it's so fucking crazy to me. It is so insane. Like, I was writing down a note where I was just like, this pillow talk is weird. And I looked up right as her breasts turned into snow-covered hills. And I just went, what? No. And I immediately backed it up and I watched the whole thing again. And then I had to pause it and I went into the other room. Like, this was great. Like, I can't believe they had the chutzpah, the hubris, the whatever it takes to just be like, we're going to put in a shitty CGI woman and morph it into either real hills or fake hill. It just does not work. It is absolutely insane. It's so crazy to me. And it's just like, anyway, cutting to the land side. It's like, no, what are you even thinking with this? What are you trying? What am I, as a viewer, what am I supposed to think and feel about that? As a graphic match, it's like, oh, her breasts are like hills.
Yeah,
I
because it was
guess.
big.
Like, it's crazy. It is so crazy that in many ways, it's like, if you want to watch this movie up to that transition and stop, I say you've watched enough. But everyone should see that because it is bonkers. Pure bonkers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it leaps out at you for sure. Well, what about you, Anna? Do you have a Baddie Award?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to give There Is Another award to the actor who played the young Marquis d'Apcher, who is named Jérémy Renier.
And I saw a picture of what he looks like now, and he should be playing French Hawkeye, I think. I think he could do it.
I think that my Baddie Award would have to be for the incredible, inspired, genius twist of making Sylvia a papal assassin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What
That was a great
unbelievable brainwave. You know, they were like, all right, now we need to get her into like a new crazy type of outfit, and we have to like convince the audience they've had their minds blown.
Yeah.
Just incredible.
The costumes for this did win a César.
Okay.
They're nice costumes, sure.
There's some dope costumes in this.
Well, I think that brings us to the end of the show, except, of course, to thank our special guest, Gretchen, for coming on so much.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Do you have anything that you want to plug? I know you're always busy doing stuff. I know you got a lot going on. Tell everybody about it.
Well, I got books. My new novel, Cuckoo, just came out. You can get that, and my previous novel, Manhunt, just wherever. But what I'd like to plug is Max Graves' What Happens Next, which is an absolutely fantastic webcomic about an obscure piece of invented true crime trivia. It's really, really astonishing.
It's fantastic. I am blown away by how young he is and how good it is. It's just
What was it
Yeah.
called again?
spectacular.
What Happens Next?
Well, check out Max Graves. What happens next? Check out Cuckoo. Buy multiple copies. Check it out from every library you can find. Give it to your friends. I insist. And I also insist, hey, you've got your phone in your hand. You're about to stop listening to our show. While you got your phone in your hand, why don't you give us that quick 5 stars, man? 5 stars is free. That's what I always say. You could leave a like or a comment or subscribe, whatever way this platform that you're listening on. Just press some of the buttons on there that make our numbers go up. It helps us in their algorithm. It helps us find new listeners. And hey, tell a friend. That'd be awesome. Word of mouth is the best way to get this stuff out. And you're the best person to do it. You personally, the person that's listening right now. And also, you should find us on our assorted social media stuff that we've got going on. We've got, favoritebadmoviepod@gmail.com if you want to email us. That's not so much social media. That's just good old-fashioned email. But if you want to reach out, you want to suggest a movie, you want to say, hey, maybe we'll get a mailbag segment. Who can say? You can find us on Instagram at favoritebadmoviepod. You can find us on Blue Sky at favoritebadmovie.bsky.social. And you can find on any of these links to our link tree. And from there, you can get to our Discord. You can hop in and chat, talk about movies with us, talk about whatever. We're casual. And also, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention next week, we will be talking about Manos, The Hands of Fate with Briar Ripley Page.
Yay!
You do not want to miss it.
I'll be tuning in for that. I love Briar. I love that movie.
Yes, it is, I think, going to be a real barn burner. You don't want to miss it. So until next time, be good.
Goodbye.
And goodbye.
Don't do anything we wouldn't do.
Which isn't much.
Yeah, you've got a broad field to play with.
Very broad.
Whoa, Bad Movie Podcast. Whoa, Bad Movie Podcast. Chris, Greg, and Nana, romance, drama, action, comedy, Bad Movie Podcast.